right. Darja, welcome to
Amanda.
Self.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I feel very honoured.
Oh, as my very first guest.
Am I your very first guest?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So special because you just set 2 new national records, 2, right?
Yes, 2.
2 new national records for the Netherlands, freediving national records. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes.
You can. This is a moment to brag. Come on.
Okay. I'm not used to bragging. You know, I am Dutch, and we are told that if you're normal, then that's special enough already. So just be normal. Yeah. I just came back from Philippines and had the most amazing time in training and competition there. And yeah, I did set 2 national records.
And what were they?
One of them was for bifins, which was my discipline for a very long time. I've been training that for a very long time, and it was kind of the national record that I kind of broke my own national record. So it was nice, but it wasn't super, wow, amazing, special. The other one, though, was a national record for monofinning, constant weight, which was standing for the last, probably, 22, so 8 years. It's been standing for 8 years. And I remember looking at it a couple of years ago and going, well, I don't even need to bother to do that, because it was 82 meters, and that's just the depth that I think even 6 months ago I didn't even want to think of going there. It sounded
and you
very
did
scary.
83.
And I did 83.
Okay, so for people who don't follow freediving, monofin is what looks like
a whale tail.
a whale tail. I was going to say a mermaid tail, but yeah, a whale tail is better. It's a bit more accurate. Yeah, that's amazing. That's super deep. And what's your bifins record? 80?
80, yes. Yay!
I don't want to clap too loudly into the mic. Oh, I'm so proud of you. So stoked.
I'm very stoked. I never thought it would happen, and then it kind of did.
Yeah, you're a badass.
Mm-hmm.
So, freediving, I'm a freediver. I mean, we met through freediving. What is it? I mean, what makes freediving so... this is a big question, I guess. What makes freediving so special for you? Like, why are you doing this? People hearing that you are diving over 80 meters, I think for a lot of people is quite unfathomable. Like, it sounds insane. It's super deep. I feel like surely people ask you, like, why?
Yeah, sure. And then the first really quick answer is because you can.
Yeah.
And not many people do. Not many people can. So if you can, then it's, that's kind of amazing. But the long answer, and I have a feeling that's where you want to go. The long answer is that for me, it's been a mirror. It's been a mirror, that's one thing. And the other thing is it's been my super shortcut to finding kind of an inner peace, inner silence.
Okay.
So there's 2 big things that I got out of freediving.
All right, we got to break this down. Which one do you want to start with? A mirror.
Okay, so mirror.
What do you mean when you say it's a mirror for you?
It's mirror because it shows you aspects of yourself that you don't necessarily look at or get confronted with in normal life, especially when things are, relatively easy in your life. Because you have to deal with adversity, you have to deal with fears, you have to deal with what goes on in your mind, you have to deal with the things that come up when you're training to go that deep. And you're a freediver yourself, so you know that there is a lot going on when you put your head underwater and then you've decided you're going to go down. Yeah. And then there's a lot that comes up. There's fears. There is a lot of fear. At least for me, there's a lot of fear. There's resistance. There's laziness. There's not necessarily the prettiest aspects of your personality that show their ugly faces. And you kind of have to go, oh, is that what I do? Oh, is that what I think? So that's how it's a mirror.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Was that the case for you from the very beginning, or was this something that came... Yeah,
from the beginning. I think I'm probably a little bit used to it because I do a lot of yoga, I teach a lot of yoga, and yoga is very similar to me. It's
Yeah.
like the time that you spend with yourself on a mat, breathing, putting your body through difficulties, you see things, you notice patterns, and then you have to deal with it. You kind of have, there's no other way than to kind of confront it and go through it, and
there's no hiding.
There's no hiding.
Yeah, I think a lot of freedivers describe it as a mirror. I've used that as well. It's really interesting that a lot of people end up using that phrase particularly because for me, I guess like that visual, the image that I get, if you're looking obviously at a mirror, you can't hide from anything. What's in front of you is just what's there. What was, if you want to share, I mean, what were some things that I guess were revealed to you that you didn't know about yourself when you started diving?
I think one of the big things, it might actually have been more something from the last couple of years, is I noticed my own self-talk. The way I was speaking to myself, what I thought about myself, that wasn't really nice. And it was something that through the diving, but also through everything that I did in order to become a better diver, it's something that I really noticed and something that I've really worked on. So it's better now. But yeah, I was my own worst critic, I guess. And I think I didn't really believe in myself. I think that when I was planning dives, when I was going, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm training for it, I'm doing a lot for it, I'm making sure that I'm fit to actually do the dive. There's no physical reason for me not to be able to do a dive.
Yeah.
And what would stop me, what would make me turn early, for example, was me not actually believing that I could do it, or me maybe not thinking I deserved to do it.
Wow.
Because of, you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not the best, you're always second best, or good if you're second best, but you're average.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about you, so what makes you think that you can do this?
Yeah.
And so that's pretty hard when you start realizing it's like, oh no, but that's nice going. I would never say that to anybody else.
Yeah.
Why would I say that to myself?
How do you think that shows up differently in diving than any other space in life? Like, do you think it's possible to almost hide more from that inner critic in other spaces?
Yeah, sure.
Why do you think that is?
Because it's just you. When you go down that line, it's just you.
Yeah.
And yes, things can get in the way, currents, and you can be distracted. You can probably find fault with some external thing and say, oh, it was my fins or my equalization or something. But in the end, it's just you on the line. There's no distractions. And you become very, very aware of your thoughts and your thought process. And I haven't really done any other sports at this level, I guess.
Yeah.
I've done team sports, I've done swimming, but never at a very high level. And I think you'd probably find that in other sports as well, as soon as you really, really put yourself into that.
But I think, for me, something that was very unique about freediving is you don't have to go to that level to experience this, to be confronted with the stuff that goes on, the noise, I think, in your head, the truth. It's like you can't hide from this truth, right, that exists in there. And the moment you start, whatever, dipping your head and diving down or just holding your breath face down in the water, I think these things just come out at a much more rapid rate than I've ever experienced in anything else.
Yeah, we probably think that we are putting ourselves in a situation where your whole body is going like, okay, stop doing this now because you are going to die.
Yeah.
This is, if you continue this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And of course we know that we won't because you won't.
Yeah.
but your body thinks that you are, and therefore, because your body is sending all these signals, your mind is going to go, do something.
Yeah.
And I think that puts you in a different level of seeing and a different level of experiencing your thoughts and your mind. And maybe that's why you see more clearly.
Yeah. And so you said you recognize this much harsher inner critic, and you've done work to move through that. What does that look like? Because I think that's something that, I mean, surely everyone has experienced at some point, whether or not you fully recognize the extent of that inner critic. I know that that's definitely something I've struggled with for a long time. What did that look like, shifting and moving through that?
Well, one of the things, the first thing, of course, was to become fully aware of what I was really telling myself and where it was coming from. Because it comes from somewhere. You didn't get born and then just start making up that you're a worthless person.
Right.
Somebody told you that, or experience told you that, or whatever you've lived through in your life told you that you're probably a worthless person. So the first thing for me is to realize it. That was the diving, going like, oh, okay, this is what I tell myself. The second thing is, what am I telling myself and why am I telling myself this?
Right.
And one of the ways that I kind of started discovering that was through my morning pages, which I do pretty religiously. Every morning I sit down, I do 3 pages where I just free write. I put my pen to the paper and I just write whatever comes up. So it can be complete nonsense, like, I don't know what to write today. Why am I still doing this? The birds are singing. My pen's beautiful. Why is my coffee not hot anymore? It can be like that. But eventually, in that kind of flow of the writing, stuff starts coming out. And as you write things down, they become clearer. They get a shape. And once they have a shape, once they have a form, you can do something with them. So these are thoughts that normally go in and out of your mind in probably less than a second, right? It's all this stuff is going on in there, and it's almost ethereal. You can't grasp it. You can't really do anything with it. Once you've written it down, suddenly there it is in your face. Yeah. It's like, oh wow, this is what I think. And then you have something to hold on to. You have something to work with. You have something you can see, something very concrete. So that's helped. With these morning pages, I don't know if you've heard of where it comes from.
No.
It's a book by Julia Cameron. It's called The Artist's Way. And she has like a 12-week program that you work through in her book, where you get all kinds of exercises. And her idea is that you do this in order to find your true creativity, to be fully creative without inner critic, without you're kind of delving a little bit deeper. You're going to slightly more deeper consciousness where you find your creativity, your true creativity. So it's really nice. But of course you can use that for anything else. And some of the exercises, they're pretty hard. She'll tell you to write down things that happened in school. Remember the first time your teacher or your fellow students told you that something you did wasn't great.
Right.
Or write down your worst nightmare or the horror story of something that happened to you in school or in your childhood or with your parents or whatever. Write it down, which is really confronting and not nice and quite painful. But again, you're writing it down, it becomes something that you can work with rather than some distant memory that when you think about it, kind of you feel that little bit of an emotion creeping up, that slight tightening of your stomach, and you go like, oh, I don't feel great thinking about this, but I'm not sure why. Again, you start writing it down, and then you go, oh, this is why. Okay, now I understand. And then you're aware. And once you have awareness, you can start working with it, and you can start changing that story. The story remains, but you can change the way you feel about it. You can change the way you use it or
respond to it, perhaps?
Respond to it, exactly. Yeah, that's probably the best way. Yeah.
Do you think that through that process of writing, were there memories that came up for you that you kind of had, I guess, like forgotten about at some point? Or was it like, was it a fresh perspective on memories that you knew you had? Or was it also, you know, stuff coming up that you're like, oh crap, I totally forgot that something like that happened?
I don't think I really forgot anything. I think it was really just kind of putting it in perspective and making the story complete, or viewing it from a different angle. Like, this is I'm going into this, but I'm going into this with the goal of perhaps fixing it or healing it, or rather than something that comes up, it's like, ugh, you know, it's there and suddenly you feel bad and you don't really know why.
Right.
But no, I'm cursed with an excellent memory, especially for this type of stuff. So it's always there. It's
there.
I have very, very vivid images of things that I lived through. Yes, and sadly, not all of them are nice, happy memories, of course, which is normal.
Absolutely. And then how does yoga, what role does yoga play into this?
It's very, I think it's very similar in the way that it holds up a mirror, like I said before. When I practice, it's a self-practice. I hardly ever go to a led class because I want this time for reflection, and when somebody tells you when to breathe and how to open your heart and all that, I can't do the same. It's nice, it will be a nice workout, but it won't be yoga as far as I'm concerned. So when I do my self-practice, I spend 90 minutes to 2 hours, sometimes more, on my mat, breathing and just being with me. So very similar to freediving, only without the breathing. But with the breathing.
With the breathing.
You know what I mean? So it's a very reflective practice. It's very quiet, it's very still, and I put myself in situations which are hard. I put myself through poses which are hard. I sweat, it's heavy, my muscles are working, my breath catches when I do deep back bends, and when I do these things, I recognize that same voice. When I started doing poses which I always thought they were not for me, and then I started trying them anyway, and then I would be hovering halfway the pose and not being able to let go or actually go through with it, because fear, perhaps, because that voice, perhaps, like, no, this is not for you, don't even try, or perhaps even something else, perhaps just giving up before you even try, which is, I think, all very much interlinked. And then when you push through to when you do make that decision, no, actually I am going to go backwards, for example, and you know, and it's gonna work, and have trust my body, trust myself. And then when you do it, that's just kind of a confirmation. It's like, oh, so you can do it, and you didn't break into a million pieces, and you didn't fail, you just did it. So it's like these little moments help you to realize slowly that you are not a worthless human being. You are fine the way you are, and you can do things, and then you can do more than you think, and then you can do even a little bit more, and all you need to do is take that break off, go like, no, I'm fine, it's okay, just go. And for freediving it's the same, right? Just go. There's a million voices telling you not to, and then you just kind of do it anyway.
I think when I'm hearing that, and I've thought about in my own diving or my own yoga practice, where it gets quite confronting, it's uncomfortable, because there's something that shows up, and you have this narrative that plays in your head, whether it's, you know, you can't do this, don't try, it's too advanced, whatever, or you're not going to make this depth, it's not going to be, you know, whatever that is. That's confronting, but then it's also really uncomfortable to sit with, because you have to, that's the thing. I think often, at least I know for me in the past, I would probably run from these things. or find something else, make an excuse, find some kind of excuse to cover it, right? Rather than actually go, this is me, like this is what's going on inside for me. For you, recognizing these things, how do you sit through, like how do you sit with these thoughts, with these feelings? Because that's hard. Like that in itself is a practice, right? Like it's tricky. I think a lot of people can realize these things about themselves, and then it's like, whoa, this is a lot. Fuck this. I'm out. I'm gonna go and whatever, get drunk on the weekend. I'm gonna, we can use a lot, and as humans, there are a lot of coping mechanisms in which we can turn to not deal with the stuff that we probably like need to deal with, but aren't comfortable or don't want to deal with.
I think part of it for me, I guess it's the same for many other people, is learning to deal with physical discomfort. And I don't really want to say pushing through, because it's not really pushing through, it's accepting that discomfort, going like, okay, so this is part of it, and it's okay, because again, I'm not going to break in a million pieces. It's going to be uncomfortable for a little while. You're teaching yourself to accept this discomfort, and I think that reflects on what happens in your mind. So when you sit with a very uncomfortable emotion, or when you sit with a very uncomfortable realization about yourself, about your behavior, about patterns, about things that you do regularly, you're okay. It's uncomfortable, but you know what? I'm not going to break in a million pieces. I'm just going to sit with it. So I think you learn through the physical, and I'm a very strong believer of that, because the physical is something it's easy. I can tell you lift your arm, and you're going to lift your arm. If somebody tells you if you lift your arm you're going to feel better, you're going to lift your arm. If I say try and feel better, you're going to go like, yeah, but how? But if you have the tool of lifting your arm, then you can, that works. So accessing these emotions or accessing these sensations through the body is the way, because we can't change the way we feel, we can't change the way we think. We're not good enough practitioners for that, in the people that I meet around me. But we can access the body, we can access that movement, and through that movement, or through the breath, or through whatever your practice is, if it's physical, it will help you to access the mind, it will help you to access the emotion, and then it will help you to accept, to release, to analyze, to whatever it is that you need to do with those emotions, whatever you need to do in order to deal with that discomfort. And you can accept the discomfort. I think that's probably one of our biggest mistakes in life, right? We're always trying to push away discomfort. Whereas if we sit it, if we accept it, then we might just kind of glide through even. It might be not so nice for a moment, but we're going to come out on the other side, rather than constantly bumping into it from whatever angle, from every angle, until we finally decide to either give up on it or go through.
I love the word acceptance, because I think that's something I definitely struggled with for a long time. Probably most people, I would say, is just accepting things as they are, accepting emotions, especially negative, painful and difficult emotions, right? And you're right, I think there's this need, we've got this aversion towards uncomfortable things, towards hard emotions, and just going, I don't want to deal with that. Let's just push it away. If I'm upset, do something to make me happy. Like, just, like I think we're all about this pursuit of happiness and pursuit of pleasure, that there's such a great aversion to anything that isn't that. And you have done Vipassana. I have. We've spoken about this. So I think that Vipassana was really the first place where I learned this idea of impermanence, and that helped me immensely in accepting things, what is it, what is it, craving, because everything's impermanent, that's the idea. And so we don't want a craving for the things that are pleasant and having an aversion for things that are unpleasant. For people who don't know what Vipassana is, can you explain it a little? I'm gonna give you all the hard questions.
Yay, fun. So Vipassana, let's be clear, the Vipassana that I've done was not a Goenka style Vipassana, but it comes down to pretty much the same things as 10-day silent retreat, meditation. So Vipassana is well, this, I said it very shortly, you might have to cut this out later on. You go to a center, you meditate for 10 days straight.
11 hours, no talking.
No talking.
No eye contact.
No input, basically, and no output.
No.
So you can't write things down, you can't read, or have your telephone with you. No. So you basically, it's just you.
Yeah.
One of my yoga teachers, before I ever did anything like this, said, as he was announcing that he was going on his, I don't know how many Vipassana, I said, I'm just going to be rolling around in my own mental pus for 10 days. I'm like, okay, way to make it sound glamorous, but in the end, it's kind of what it is.
Yes.
You're just observing yourself and your mind and everything that comes up, and because there's no other input and there's no output, it's there right in your face. There's no escape.
The first time I heard about it, I was like, this is horrible, I will never do this. I think I heard about it maybe, my friend did it in Myanmar, and we were traveling together, and she's like, I'm going to do this Vipassana for 10 days. I was like, no, I will never, you'll never catch me dead doing this. Meditating for 11, 12 hours a day for 10 days straight, waking up early, no talking, no writing, I will never do this. And then sure enough, last year I did my first one. And this year I went back again. But it is rolling around in your mental pus, I think is very accurate. And I think that in our world today, with everything that we have going on and all the noise and all the input that we have, I have never had an opportunity to be with myself in that way ever in my life. And then you really realize some things. And I guess like freediving, yoga also bring out all these things, right? But having the 10 days is super intense. It's done.
There's literally no escape.
No.
It's like, even on your yoga mat, when things get hard, you can go like, okay, I'm backing off. Where's my phone? You can, and we do. It's like you explain it. We're hardwired, at least nowadays, we're hardwired to seek pleasure. We have very hedonistic lifestyles, and anything that gets in the way of that, we kind of like, well, just walk around that. And there are so many distractions available to us. We can pick up our phone and literally spend an hour not thinking or anything, being completely distracted. So
do you think our lives are too comfortable now?
I think,
and obviously for like most of us who live very privileged
for
lives,
us super privileged people, I think they are, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why people behave in very bad ways. They do, because there's no struggle, there's very little struggle. And when things get in between us and our comforts, we will blame others. We will find fault in others in order not to have to maybe, look at ourselves, or I don't know how to really explain how how our lives would be different if we didn't have literally the world at the tips of our fingers.
Adversity, right? Like just having some adversity in life, because life in general is fairly easy for most of us.
Yes.
Yeah, for us for sure. And yeah, we don't struggle for like even our our basic needs. We live very comfortable lives. Yeah. And
you see it when people suffer, or when they claim they suffer. And let's be very clear. Like when people suffer, I acknowledge that suffering. It doesn't matter where it comes from. And if you feel bad, you feel bad. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel bad. But the thing is that we're not used to dealing with anything really anymore. So when we do face adversity, when we do face things and there's nothing you can do about it, our reactions become almost out of proportion because we've never had to deal with anything bad. We never had to run from a saber-toothed tiger. Or, find water that is not coming out of your tap, and when it's not coming out of your tap, it's the end of the world. Whereas I think probably 60% of the world's population does not have water coming out of the tap. And we're spoiled little assholes, I think, sometimes.
So then, I mean, we need to get comfortable with discomfort. I think that's an obvious thing, right? Because it's easy to run from uncomfortable situations. It's easy to ignore, to jump on your phone, to distract, to seek the pleasure, that rush, whatever's going on, that kind of instant reward that's in your hand. I think that's what phones have given us. Because if you feel a little bit crappy and you go on and you're just scrolling through TikTok or Instagram reels and you're seeing cool things, I mean, for me, they don't really make me feel better personally. I'm like, if I start getting in my head about comparing things, then it's actually going to put me in a worse space. But I guess you can escape what's going on. So really there's almost a need for practicing discomfort, because you can't, right? Like, you don't want to throw yourself into the deep end. No one's going to go in free dive 83 meters tomorrow. But surely there are things that we can do to start becoming familiar with discomfort. And you spoke about accessing it through the physical body, because it's difficult to just, I mean, I guess this happens to people where your world gets turned upside down, some big crisis happens, whether it's like a big ending in your marriage or, just whatever it is that's going on that's huge, that makes it very difficult to deal with in that moment. But if you can develop some kind of practice where you become more familiar with sitting through discomfort, I guess like that's going to help the mental stuff that happens later or in life at any point, that we don't control and we don't expect to happen. What practices, what ways do you see, would you recommend, I guess, in practicing discomfort? Because I feel like you've got a lot of tools at your disposal.
A lot of it is what I've mentioned already. Have a regular physical practice. It can be yoga, it can be something else. But as you do your physical practice, don't do it perhaps with blaring music all the time. Don't be watching television as you are running on your treadmill. Don't necessarily always put on a podcast when you are doing something that's hard. Don't always put music in your ears when you're doing a run. Maybe turn a little bit more inside. Maybe when you practice, try to observe what comes up rather than just doing it. And I think for any type of practice, if you're doing a HIIT workout, it's fun with music, but that's also a distraction. So maybe once in a while, not every time, but once in a while, turn off the music and really observe what happens when you do this extremely hard thing with your body.
Yeah.
When you're using your muscles, when you're in pain, when you feel your muscles cramping, or they're getting hot, or lactate building up, like listen to it, observe it, and then accept it again, kind of work through it. And then when you get used to doing that, then hopefully that will help you when one day you have to do something that is really much harder.
Yeah.
I think it's any type of practice where you are going to be in some form of pain, perhaps, whether it's
just pushing a limit, right? Like something that doesn't feel easy.
Yeah. So don't give up the moment that you go, ooh, this doesn't feel nice.
Yeah.
Like push through a little bit.
Yeah.
When you hold your breath and your urge to breathe starts, wait another 30 seconds before you give yourself the nice deliverance of breathing again.
Yeah.
When you are lifting a heavy weight and you're doing 10 reps of something, and by number 10 you're going to go, oh, then maybe add 5 more and see how you react and see how you feel. When you're doing yoga, do that extra jump through or chaturanga, whatever it is that is going to be hard for you.
Yeah.
And observe yourself doing it.
Yeah.
And challenge yourself constantly. So I try to challenge myself in my yoga practice. I try to challenge myself in my freediving practice. And I do most of it in silence.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the freediving, there's a lot of chat happening, but underwater you're in silence.
As you were saying that, what I was hearing was really being present in what you're doing.
Yes, present and aware.
And then I really like what you said, which was do something hard for you. Because we all have different limits, abilities and capabilities, right? So it's easy to look at someone and go, well, that looks like an impossible practice, or like me hearing 83 meters, I can't go and do that tomorrow. Even if
at some point you will.
Hopefully at some point, yes, absolutely. But it's what's hard for you. And I think there's this, I remember a few years ago, one of my friends would explain this, and he was like, you've got your comfort zone and you don't grow in your comfort zone, right? Like, this is where things are easy. It's good. Like, we've got our comfort zone. And then you have, and I've heard it described as like green, yellow, red as well. Then you have this discomfort zone, and then you have panic. And so you don't want to go into the red. You don't want to go into panic. Okay. I'm not going to go tomorrow and set the line to 83 meters and be like, I'm going to 83 no matter what. But you play like in this space of discomfort, and that's where growth happens. And so I think when I'm hearing, like, for instance, I used to run with music, and then I stopped. And then you're so right, like, then you hear and you can observe and be present with everything that's going on, not only in your body. Like, I think the great thing about that is when you're not being distracted and tuning into other things, then you really do tune into yourself, right? And then it's like I'm actually feeling things and feeling parts of my body being activated that I just didn't feel before. And I remember in yoga, perhaps when I really first started practicing, when I'd be instructed to like engage my core, I'm like, but isn't it like, I don't know, am I? What is it? I'm tensing my abs. What I think of it, but it really allows you to dial in and go inwards, and then you kind of, you actually develop an awareness for your body.
Yes. And
you tap into stuff that you just did not, just like muscles you didn't even feel before.
Yeah, right. So what are your core muscles? I'm tensing my ab. Oh, but there's more. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And as you do with the body, you do with the mind.
Yeah, but that's the tricky thing. Right, I think a lot of that's where you want to piece it together, because you want to be able to accept and sit in the discomfort with your body. And then when it comes to the mind, that's a whole nother space, and that can be, at least in my experience, like a lot harder.
Yeah, I think it is. but it's also, I truly believe it's a lot harder because we are not trained to do that.
Yeah.
And it's only today, with the way we've surrounded ourselves at this moment, we have people around us who do this. We have people around us that go and sit with the discomfort in their mind. And 10 years ago, it was not a thing. It was not as widespread. There was not so many people around you that would do that.
Yeah.
Now you ask people if they've done Vipassana, most people say yes. Or
at least in Bali.
At least in Bali. But that is where we live.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
this is the people we have around us.
Yeah.
But even when I go back home and I hang with my friends, I see that there's a shift happening there.
Yeah.
I see there's a lot more people who do practices that incorporate meditation, that incorporate stillness, that incorporate doing something with full awareness. There's a lot of mindfulness everywhere, and it's not for nothing. It's because it's what we need to do. It's what's been missing.
Yeah.
And our lives today, because the way they are, it is even easier to step away from it. It's even easier to be 100% distracted all the time.
Yeah.
50 years ago, when our parents were alive, it was reading books by the fire in the evening. There was no phone, there was no YouTube, there was no television.
Conversation.
There was conversation. There was a lot more time for reflection. There was a lot more space for self-reflection, and I think it was much more part of people's daily lives than it is today. And I think because we don't have that anymore, we don't have that opportunity all the time, we have to create the opportunity.
Yeah. It's so interesting that we live in a digital age where we're supposed to be more connected than ever. And yet, yeah, you're right. You could sit there at a table full of people and everyone could be on their phones and completely checked out. No one's present.
I mean, how often do you see that here, anywhere in the world?
Yeah. 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 That's, I like that you said that we have to create opportunities for that. And I think there has been a great shift, and you're right. For me, going back home to Oz and speaking to my friends, there's so much more of an acceptance of a mindfulness practice. But I guess people don't really like the word meditation much, but mindfulness seems accessible to modern,
it's a little bit more
to the West.
Yes,
they're like, oh yeah, mindfulness.
Yeah.
That's being far more accepted and practiced. I think health is looked at more holistically as well, because health was very much physical before, and now we recognize actually our mental health is extremely important.
And it's linked, it's the same, so many levels.
Mind-body connection, which is a whole nother thing,
a whole nother 15 podcasts
to go into it. What do you think? I mean, ultimately, with these practices for you, sitting through discomfort, being aware of all of this, how has it shaped and benefited your life?
I think in all, first of all, I'm a more disciplined person because of the practices that I do. The kind of creates your morning routines. Like, okay, so now I do get up and I do drink a big glass of water with lemon, and I have my coffee, and I do my pages, and I do my meditation, and I do my yoga.
What time do you get up? Can I guess? 4:30.
No.
5.
Don't be ridiculous. 5 is usually when I wake up, and I'll be out of bed usually by 5:30.
Yeah.
What
are you doing for the first 30 minutes?
I run around and go like, oh, life is beautiful. I wake up. I need some time. Like, I wake up and I'm awake, but I do like to have a little stretch in my bed. And sometimes when I'm a naughty girl, I put on a little podcast already.
Oh.
I try not to, because I try to do my pages before I have any input. Exactly. So, but yeah, if I'm lazy, then that's what I'll do. If I'm not lazy, then I'll take some time. I'll probably be out of bed by like 5:15. And then just get up and my days, I'm up, I'm awake.
Yeah.
I'm not a zombie in the morning. I'm a morning person, so it's nice to get the morning started.
So you're more disciplined.
I'm more disciplined. I find that I'm calmer, I'm more balanced, I'm more aware. And I can step back more easily. So when something happens that would have normally affected me, made me feel sad, made me feel angry or whatever, I can step back and observe myself and observe my reaction or my initial attempt at a reaction and go like, oh, that's interesting, and then stop it if it's not something that I would want to do. So I'm definitely more aware. I'm more tuned in. So I find that I'm trusting myself more, I'm trusting my intuition more. I'm more positive about the world and myself, which is really nice.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, I can catch myself still going to like, oh, you're worth this, and then go like, no, that's an interesting thought. Like, okay, I wonder why it came up now, but rather than following up on that thought and just kind of going into a little spiral of, oh, woe is me, I now go, I kind of have a little laugh at that thought and at that me that has that thought.
Yeah.
So, I'm not pushing anybody away, but I'm aware that it happens, and I go, okay.
Yeah,
fun.
That's awesome.
There's more distance, I think, between.
It's almost like creating space.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think space to interrupt old patterns.
Yes, exactly.
For sure, because like that's what I was hearing, right? Where you might have gone, for this long I've always reacted in this way, and then you create a bit of extra space for a response instead, so you can still feel that kind of natural, that old pattern, that old behavior that wants to come up, but then you're able to just give it some time. And I think that lengthening of time, even if it's 1 second, and which might turn into 5 and 10 and then a minute, and then at some point you really do break out of these old patterns. It might take a long time to get there, but then you create space to respond in a way that you want to, in a way that you
which
choose.
is more controlled, which is not coming directly from an emotion, right? So what happens when we have trauma, when we have things that weigh on us, we react very quickly. We have knee-jerk reactions, right? And that's all happening from emotion. And there's nothing wrong with emotion, but you don't want to be ruled by them. So you don't want to turn because you feel bad, like turn on your line when you're free diving, go like, oh, and then turn. Right. You want that little bit of those few seconds to kind of go like, oh, what is making me want to do that? Where is that thought? Where is that emotion coming from? And then suddenly you realize, or maybe just the few seconds made you feel differently. So it gives you space to be different, to be less ruled by your emotions.
And then to understand yourself more, I think.
Absolutely, yes.
Right, because I feel like life is just this ongoing journey of learning who you are, like learning about yourself, understanding yourself. Because there's just so much, you're right, like all this stuff that you're ruled by that you didn't have much of a choice over. It's just it's been embedded in you, whether it's a trauma, something that's happened, whatever, and then it's like, now this is how I show up. But now we create space to actually have some choice and autonomy over how I want to show up.
Exactly. And then you come back to, how do you react to adversity, or how do you react to the story that is your life? And we all have that story, and that can't be changed. The history can't be changed. But we can change the way we feel, or it makes us feel. We can go respond to it. Exactly. So it's very
empowering.
yeah, it's also ongoing. It never stops, because when you think you got it, something else happens. You go like, I'm all back where I started.
Yeah, I see it like an onion, where you're just peeling back layers, and so there's there's deeper stuff in there. Yeah,
layers.
There's just layers, and you're kind of peeling one back at a time. You do a bit of work, and you're like, oh yeah, I've worked through some things, and then there's another layer.
Yeah.
And I think as well, though, that helps you to show up better in the world for other people.
Oh, yes.
Right, because if you understand yourself and you're like, okay, I'm this way because of all these old patterns and whatnot, I think it also gives you perspective.
Yes, and compassion.
Yeah, and compassion, absolutely. Yeah. Which is, something we could all absolutely do.
Yes,
we
should all have tons more compassion than we do. But yeah, for sure, if you know how you react and how your patterns are, then it will make you way more understanding other people's patterns. Not always. Sometimes it's very hard, but yeah, mostly you can go, oh, okay. Oh, so maybe something happened to you to make you say that to me now. And go, okay, good. Fine.
A bit more empathy. Understanding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So what's the plan for the next, few months? What's next few months and the next year ahead?
Well, now I kind of need to go back to work, because I've been spending the last 2 years just training and pretending that I have a job waiting for me at the end of it all. I do have a job waiting for me, so we have a teacher training happening, yoga teacher training happening in Australia right now, and I'm going to be joining them for some teaching.
Amazing. Yay.
I'm looking forward to that. Teaching actual live students, not through a screen. That's going to be fun. I'm going to be doing the philosophy with them, so I'm looking forward to that as well.
Amazing. Do you have any other teacher trainings for next year?
Yes, I've got one planned here in Bali for May next year, and then one in Egypt for June next year.
Awesome.
So, yes.
Do you have a website? I'll have to link some stuff in the show notes.
Yes, you will have to. Absolutely. Yoga Here and There is the company.
Yeah.
And that's where you can find us on Instagram and Facebook and our website, all under Yoga Here and There. It's very easy.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, I'm very excited. Are you going to compete next year?
I'm hoping to.
Yeah?
Yes. There's a few more national records. No, then actually, I want to say they're up for they're not. They're so far from what I've been doing, so I don't know.
Some training.
A lot of training.
Yeah.
And I would have to start loving free immersion, which I really don't.
Yeah.
And it's a very deep free immersion that I would need to do. So maybe that's just never going to happen. Or maybe it will. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
I did say that about this time.
Yeah,
exactly.
It was never gonna happen,
exactly. So. But yeah.
I remember when I feel like last year, yeah, your diving was in a different place, and then in the space of 1 year, you absolutely kicked ass. You just took it to another level.
Yeah, it's something shifted in my mind. Definitely, something shifted in the way I viewed the dives, and I blame the morning pages and the work that I've done.
You thank the morning pages is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's really strange. I used to shit my pants for dives like this.
Yeah.
And now I look forward to them, and there's definitely
a mind shift.
And that doesn't just happen.
No.
So, yeah, all the meditation, all the morning pages, all the yoga.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to start writing 3 pages every morning, and I'll do, the 2 hours of yoga and meditation, and then I'm going to dive 83 meters 1 year from now.
Yes. Yes.
That's it. That's all it takes.
Why not? Yeah. So you need to do some freediving as well.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, going to winter in Japan is probably not going to facilitate that.
Yeah. You can do your base training on the mountain, lots of running up and down the hill.
Yeah.
In altitude. That will help.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Awesome.
And and then when you come back or when you find yourself with some depth, then
Just smash it.
Just do it.
Just
I think
do
that's
it.
pretty much what it comes down to. Just do it.
Yeah. And sit with.
And learn to embrace the discomfort.
Oh, what a line. Embrace the discomfort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can say, me and my buddies say, embrace the suck.
Yeah.
So yeah, embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.
And then you see it's not as bad as you think.
That's it. Thanks, Darja.
Well, thank you for having me, Amanda.
Oh, I've loved chatting to you. Yeah, well, I'll link all your stuff in the notes.
Yes.
In the show notes. The invisible show notes. I'm not really sure where they're going to be. I'll put something in there. So I'll include it all. Thank you so much for coming to chat with me. And I think that's a great lesson in embracing the suck. So thanks for that.
Okay, you're welcome.
And I'll see you guys next week. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me along on Instagram at self_podcast and at Amanda Letran. That's Amanda Letran. I release episodes every Thursday. I will see you next week. Bye.